It was a very dark night many years ago, and I was in the middle of the South Pacific on the most remote speck of land on the face of the earth, called Easter Island. There are no cities there and no city lights. In the night sky you can see the stars as we never can here. From the time I was small, I had always been fascinated by stars and used my imagination to trace the constellations. But these skies were foreign to me because this was the southern hemisphere and the stars were completely different. These constellations I had only heard about but had never seen. I gazed up, wondering where they all were and what they all were. Suddenly I noticed a very distinguished-looking old Polynesian man in a beautiful uniform. I asked someone who he was and was told he was an old sea captain from Tahiti who was in with his ship for the night. So I approached the old captain, and finding that he didn't speak much of anything that I spoke well, we conversed in French. I asked him to show me the Southern Cross, a constellation I had always wished to see. He gladly pointed it out to me, and for the next hour or so showed me all the different constellations I had never seen before. The old captain proudly pointed to those stars that had always led him across the dark seas. An expert and a wise man, he tried to impart some of that knowledge to me. That was an evening I will never forget. 2,000 years ago, other people were studying the stars. These were known as Magi, and they lived in the distant land of Persia. They knew all there was to know about the stars, and they could predict the rising of each one. For generations, these Magi had waited for a very special star, which they knew would rise and point to the birth of someone very, very special. They knew this from their parents, and from their parents, and from theirs, as generation after generation had been waiting for the rise of this special star. One day they saw this star rise, and they knew that this star was to lead them to God. They didn't study it, they didn't question it. They got up and followed that star. They saw and they followed. The Magi had no idea how long that journey would be, no idea where this star would lead them. They had no idea what perils awaited them along the journey, what sort of dangerous terrain they would have to cross. All they knew was that this star had been sent by God, and that this star would lead to God. What reward did they find at the end of their long journey? The star rested over the place where a baby lay. It was no palace. Perhaps they had expected one. It was a barn, a stall where animals rested. But they didn't blink, didn't question, for they knew that that star had led them to the right place. They simply brought out their treasures and adored the newborn king, knowing that this child was the creator of all the stars and was the king of all the kings. They saw, they believed, and they followed. God sends to each of us a star to enlighten our life and lead us on the path to God. This star may be a person in our life. It may be a book we read, a word we hear. It may be just one magical moment in our life which makes us realize where we must go. That star comes to each of us. It's not just any star. It is my star. It is one that speaks to my heart. And yours is one that speaks to yours. Yours may be very, very different from mine, but it is the star God has sent to you to illumine the sometimes very dark paths of your life. That star might remain invisible to everyone else around you, but it's not invisible to you. You can walk, you can sail by the light of that star, knowing that it is leading you to God. Like that old sea captain in the middle of a dark ocean, we are all trying to reach a destination, and we all need the light of that star. On that island, I didn't know any of those stars. They meant nothing to me. They could not have led me anywhere. But to that captain, those stars had a great deal of meaning, and he knew exactly what he had to follow. God sends each of us a very special one, and if we look with open eyes and open heart, we will recognize it. At the end of our starlit journey, like the Magi, we will find that our star has brought us to a place far different from anything we imagined, yet has led us to the King of Kings, who to our amazement welcomes us with the smile of a little child.